Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to Ireland Bound. Uh, I know I'm a little later than what I have been. Uh, let's just say that I've had a pretty crazy week or two. I won't get into that now. That's something for another time. But anyways, so I, with my weekend and everything being a little nutsy, I'd had something else planned that I wanted to do, and I wasn't able to do it because, well, let's just say that too much stuff was in the way. So I'm going to shift it a little bit. It is about the trip. I'm something. It's something kind of maybe it's what I've done, and it's something maybe to help someone else to maybe plan your own trip. Something for you to think about in the future. Of course, some of you know, some of you don't. Pretty much, I'm on my own. I don't have a whole lot of family. I've got nieces, nephews, and cousins, and that's about it. Pretty much the rest of my family is gone. So, the thought comes to my mind, since I don't have a husband, what am I going to do if something happens to me, especially if it happens overseas? How are things going to get taken care of and prepared and stuff like this? And so, basically, over the last 2 years, I have been making plans with one person in mind to take over things. I'm not going to say who it is because, number one, I haven't actually talked to them yet. I needed to get some more stuff before I went and spoke to them. And so, I didn't want to rush into anything. But I have everything from when I did my passport, because when they ask about that, they wanted to know, who to contact in case of an emergency. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, it used to be my brother, but my brother passed away a couple of years ago, and so I had to choose someone else. And a lot of people, of course, it's going to be their husband, their wife, parents, kids. I have none of that. None of those exist for me, so I had to choose someone else. And honestly, at the moment when I realized that I had to choose someone else and I chose them, I started realizing there's a lot of things that I had to change over. Like I said, it's not something people want to think about. You don't want to think, oh, what if I'm severely hurt? You don't necessarily have to be severely hurt. You might just, one of the things I want to do on my trip, I want to go to the Giant's Causeway. Sorry, I had to stop for a moment and think of what it was. I wanted to go to the Giant's Causeway. It's basically giant rocks. If I remember right, I think they're basaltic rocks. I'd have to look it up and do my research again on it to see, but it's these giant rocks. They're by the ocean. They're going to be wet. If I get careless for a moment and I slip, I could land and break my leg. I could break a hip. Any of those things could happen. If I broke a leg or broke a hip, then of course I'd have to have someone to get me to a hospital and, someone to help take care of me. Well, if I'm bad enough that I can't continue on my trip, I might have to talk the airline into letting me come home earlier, because that's going to be the first part of my trip. how am I going to make it by myself, down to Dublin and then to a place and then just stay there for a couple of weeks or a couple of weeks. I don't have that much time for the remainder of my trip. Spend it in my rented room, basically doing nothing except looking out the window. So I might need to, have them call her or him to come and get me. I might need my emergency contact to meet us at the airport. Now, airports are kind of a funny thing from everything I have understood about them. You can land in an airport, and if you don't leave the airport, you don't need a passport. It's like, so I could have booked a flight without a passport, but I would have had to have stayed in the airport the whole entire time, which would have been hard because I'm coming in one airport and I'm leaving out another airport. So, like I said, you can go over, you can stay in an airport without a passport. So, I mean, my emergency contact could have landed, and waited for me there in the airport. They could have brought me in my wheelchair and said, okay, she's all yours, take her away, and help me get back home. I think, I'm not certain, but I think they do emergency passports for something like that. If nothing else, I do have a few family and friends that they do have passports, so might be able to contact one of them if they can't get an emergency one, because like I said, something happens, emergency, you gotta go get that person. So there are things like that you got to take into account. A lot of people, when they travel with their husband, with their wife. They might travel with their parents or with their kids, their best friend. I did have a bit of a revolving door. I've had like 8 different people that at one point or another they were like, I want to go with you, and different things have happened. The one that I thought was going to be the most likely to go is having some very severe health problems of her own, and she can't go with me. So that means that I am pretty much by myself now. But I'm not worried. I'm not scared. I'm not upset. Life happens. I get it. I understand. I mean, there are times that I have had to back out on someone for whatever reasons. So I mean, I get it. I understand. Life happens. But like I said, so it's like if any of those things that happened with my friend started happening while we were over there, I might have had to call, her son or one of her friends or someone to come meet at the airport. I might have been able to get my friend to the airport, but they would have had to have met her on the other side. So, I mean, it's, like I said, if you're traveling alone, you definitely need emergency contact. That also brings up the next thing. I do not want to have a bad trip. I do not want to have a bad trip. I want the best trip ever. But things happen. I mean, I could be in an accident here close to home, in my home state. I could be in a car accident that kills me. Okay, I'm going to be over there in a country where I'm not completely aware of things. I might accidentally pull out in front of someone that I shouldn't and get hit, and I don't like even thinking this, but I mean, I could die. If that happens, my emergency contact needs to get me home. So I set up 2 different accounts, 2 different like life policy accounts. One of them is with my insurance company that I use all the time, the one that takes care of my car and my renter's insurance and all that. State Farm. I have several policies with them, and one of them is a life insurance policy. Um, I also have another one that about a year and a half ago I got set up, and I got it through my work. Okay, yeah, some people might say it's a little bit of overkill having two policies, but at the same time, if, like I said, I don't want anything to happen to me, but I have to look at the possibility. Like I said, something could happen to me over here. It's life. We don't plan our deaths. Our deaths just happen. We don't sit there and go, okay, well, let's see, I'm going to wait until this certain date. Life doesn't happen that way. When the accident happens, it happens. So it's like you have to think sometimes a little bit on the grim side. So I set up a second policy with Globe Life, two different companies here. So it's like I've got one here and one here. And I've got, I think, about the same amount of coverage on each one of them. So if something happens to me, hopefully she can use the money from one to get my body home, and the other one to do at least a halfway decent little funeral for me. So, like I said, it's one of those things we don't like thinking about that. That's not something that we want to think about on a regular basis, but it's something we do need to think about. Even if you're going over with someone else, if you're, going over with a loved one or a friend or something, something could happen, and, they might need to go ahead and, know about these policies so that way, they can get you home. Like I said, whether you're traveling by yourself or with someone else, if you're going overseas, you need quite a bit of money. Yeah, they might be able to, cash in the ticket to get me back home through the airline, but there's going to be a difference. See, when I'd be flying home, I'd be flying home as a passenger. But if I pass away, I feel healthy. I feel like I could go forever. You don't see the heart attacks coming. You don't see the strokes coming. You don't see the blood clots coming. They're there, and all of a sudden, you're gone. So, like I said, when you come home sitting up, you pay a different price than if you come home laid out. They charge pretty much freight on your body to bring you home. So, like I said, I want my family to be able to bring me home without problems. So, like I said, I've got two policies. I've got one through my local insurance that I pay for everything else, and then I have one with Globe Life. And just for information's sake, I'm not getting paid for either one of those. That's just, I'm giving you examples because there's going to be people going, well, what kind of insurance companies? Most of your local insurance companies will cover everything. Yeah, sure, they take care of your car. Yeah, sure, they take care of your renter's insurance, your home insurance, but they also take care of other things. You just have to ask them, and they can get you hooked up with whoever you need to go. They will handle any insurance that you have need of. Like I said, then there's the major ones. I'm saying Globe Life because they're the ones that I'm using. Since I have an actual policy with them, then I'm basically, I feel free to be able to say that that's who I'm using. I'm not going to mention the others because there are a lot of others that you can use. There's a lot of them out there. It just depends on, you know, who you're with. Uh, Here in a couple of months, there's going to, you know, if you work at a good sized job, you might have insurance policies coming up. You know, talk with, if you like to travel, definitely find out about insurance that you can do if you're going places. You know, because I mean, like I said, it's you don't want to be unprepared. Um, you know, there's a lot of other things, of course, that I have done to prepare. Like I said, it's things like my bank accounts. I am making sure are in my emergency contacts name. You know, so that way, if something happens, they can just walk in there and say, "Hi, this is my ID. You know, my aunt, my cousin, my friend has passed away. I need to, you know, take care of their accounts. You know, where do we go from here? You know, and work on that sort of stuff. Um, Also, too, make sure you've got a will and that it's in order. Make sure that it is, you know, everything's spelled out the way you want it, you know, how you want people to get things. Um, you know, there's little things like that you ought to think about. Um, you know, there's, like I said, besides your bank accounts, besides insurance policies, and besides wills, you know, make sure someone knows what you want. You know, make sure they understand, you know, okay, you know, I want to be cremated. I have a burial plot. I have a place in my backyard. Just dig a little corkscrew hole and turn me into it. Sorry, that's a little joke that me and some friends used to have. We were like, oh yeah, you know, just dig a post hole in the backyard and just, you know, spin me down into it. I don't think my leg would fit into a post hole anymore. But anyway, so you know, like I said, I know it might seem like a little bit more of a heavy video this time around, but you know, it's just something for everybody to think about. You know, even if you don't travel a lot, you know, start thinking about those things because, like I said, you never know when something's going to happen. You know, you don't plan, you know, getting hit by a car while crossing the street. You know, you don't plan for that drunk driver to hit you at 80 miles an hour. You know, you don't plan a heart attack. You don't plan, you know, having a grand mal seizure because you are having a severe reaction to certain things. Um, you know, those are things that you don't plan. You don't look for. You know, like I said, even if you're not going to be doing a trip like I'm doing, definitely think about your family and do that. But I mean, if you are planning a trip, please definitely think about those things. You know, we think we're young, we think we're carefree, and we think we're going to live forever. And forever comes a little bit faster than we expect. But anyways, that's really all. I just, you know, like I said, something for people to think about. You know, stuff for you to maybe kind of plan a little bit because, like I said, we don't want our loved ones being stuck. I mean, I've buried both of my parents, and my dad, I was too young to do anything about it or to plan anything with it, and my brother ended up having to help me and my mom out because there was no way we could have paid even for the very basic funeral by ourselves. And he put the money there, and he helped us basically take care of my dad's funeral. When my mom died, there was several nice people that helped me, that gave me money and stuff, but the biggest part of it, I had to pay myself. I had to go take a loan out at the bank and say, okay, my mother died, help me. You know, so I mean, you can do a loan, you know, but you know, you might have a special account, set some money aside, help your family out because I mean, it can be very hard to take care of something like that, and like I said, I don't have kids to be able to tell them, it's like, okay, y'all sell this, and sell this, and that should take care of the funeral. I can't tell them that, because one, I don't have that much good stuff to sell. I mean, I've got my vehicle. Yeah, I got my vehicle. I'm not sure my vehicle would pay for the funeral, but like I said, it just makes sure that things are in order, because like I said, you don't want to be over in a foreign country and your family can't get you home. But anyways, I didn't have too much else. It's just something I wanted to mention, to talk about, so that way, maybe y'all can be a little better prepared. Maybe y'all can get something in line. You know, you never know when something bad's going to happen. Oh, by the way, when you set up stuff like that, if you don't want it to be a family member, you can have it, like emergency contacts and people who are like the executor of your wills. You can have it as anybody that you want. If you are a religious person and you go to church, it can be the pastor of your church. It can be a friend from church. It can be your boss. It can be a coworker. It could be your best friend that you have known since you were 5 years old. It can be basically anyone you want. It never has to be a family member. If you want it to be a family member, it can be a family member. But it's just someone who you trust to take care of your final bills, your final expenses, everything like that. Take care of your funeral, all that stuff. Someone that you feel will be responsible enough to do that, and will be caring and loving enough to do that. Some people just don't care, and they're like, whatever, I'm going to, take all this money. I'm going to pay cremation and just send them off, even though they don't want to be cremated. I'm going to take their burial plot they have, and I'm going to sell it. I'm going to take all the money, and I'm going to go do a vacation. I'm going to go buy that big car I wanted. I'm going to go buy that whatever it is that they want. Make sure that it's someone who will take care of you in your final needs, in your final things, that your last wishes. But anyways, like I said, it's just a little something to think about, something for y'all uh, to ponder on. Next time, hopefully, I will be a little bit better prepared, and the week won't catch me off guard like this one did. I don't even really want to go into everything that's been going on this past week. It's been crazy. I can just say that. So it's like next week, it's going to be more trip stuff, but it's going to be a little bit more happy stuff than what I've talked about today. Anyways, y'all have a great evening, great week, great day, great whatever, and I will talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.